What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something that I may regret, and that is a tier list for supports this time. So the reason why I say I regret it is because I don't like making tier lists because they get outdated so fast, and then I get people ask me like things like, oh, but you said in this video a week ago that blah blah blah, and because it's a week later it ends up not being true because, you know, it's a changing game, things change. But, you know, a lot of people ask me questions on a day-to-day basis, like what supports and stuff I think are the strongest, or what champions in general. So I figured I would do just a test run, and I'll do supports first, and if you guys like it, then I'll do the other roles as well, and I'll just do one for every patch. Maybe I can just start doing all the roles in one video or something like that, although it'll be pretty long. I'm going to try to keep this short, but it'll probably end up being like 15 minutes, knowing me, you know, talk too much. But okay, so some ground rules. Let's go over what a tier list actually is first. A tier list does not mean that, say, for example, that Zilean is worse than Thresh in a certain team comp. What it means is that Thresh is reliably stronger than Zilean. So he is stronger in more situations than Zilean is, and yeah, so that's pretty much how it goes. Like, Zilean could be fucking amazing in one team comp, but Thresh will be amazing in multiple team comps. So just because a champion is C tier or B tier does not mean that they're bad. It just means that they're not good in as many situations. So with that out of the way, let's just get right into it. So S tier, this should not really be a surprise to you all. Thresh, Annie, and Leona. They are kind of the triad right now. Thresh counters Leona, Leona counters Annie, and Annie counters Thresh. Annie has too much engage for Thresh to deal with, but Thresh can stop Leona's engage with his Flay. And Leona can beat up on Annie because she's squishy, although Annie does win in some matchups. For example, Annie Jinx can really give Leona a hard time because they just push the lane too fast, and then Annie can get off without autos. And what was the last one? Thresh beats Leona, Annie beats Thresh, and Thresh beats Leona. I feel like I just said the same thing 2 times. Anyway, this should really not be a surprise to you guys. Annie and Leona are 2 best initiators in the game, and outside of that, Thresh is the best pick champion in the game, meaning he's able to make picks with his hooks, and really good at sieging. Can create a lot of opportunities. His peeling abilities are amazing. He can chain CC really well with champions like Jinx and Lane. Has a lot of damage himself. Yeah, those 3 again should not really be that surprising. And then after S tier, I have Blitz tier, which is Blitzcrank on his own, of course, because people always ask me because of my Blitzcrank guide, like, how good do you think Blitzcrank is? Like, is Blitzcrank good in this meta or whatever? And I honestly think Blitz is just always going to be good if you know how to play Blitz. Like, I don't think there will ever come a time, or that there ever has been a time, where Blitzcrank was bad. Like, you can make a lot of arguments for competitive play, like, oh, he can't push the lane, he has bad tower pushing, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, you land 1 hook and the game's over. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. I never know where to put him because of that, so I just put him on his own tier, which I would put somewhere in between S tier and A tier. Take it for what you want. I think he is definitely a good pick right now. If you want to pick him, and I think he will always be a good pick just because of how Rocket Grab works. It's just a game-changing ability, and he will always be good because of it. Moving on to A tier. Let me take a drink of water real quick. Moving on to A tier, I have Morgana, Lulu, Nami, Malphite, and Sona. Some of these might be surprising to you, namely the Morgana and Malphite. But I think Morgana is extremely underrated right now. I did post that highlight video the other day because a lot of people were asking me on my unconventional supports video, like, why do you not mention Morgana? And the honest answer is because I just fucking forgot. The same reason why I guess I'm contributing here to my own underrated thing, because even I forgot to mention her when I think she's good. So yeah, she actually has pretty good matchups against these three, and also Blitzcrank for that matter, because you know, you can react to Thresh Hook, and you can react to the Zenith Blade from Leona or the Ultimate from Leona, which makes her kind of useless in late game in terms of catches, because if she throws out her ult while Morgana's nearby, she can just Black Shield and nothing happens, and just wasted her ult for one low cooldown. I don't think she does as well against Annie as people think. I think that matchup is actually still in favor of Annie, but she can survive maxing Black Shield, which is pretty good. Lulu also does good against, not like great against all these, but she can survive against all three of these, so that's what's good about her. Nami and Sona are good when all three of these are down, pretty much. Both Nami and Sona can do well against Thresh, sort of, but Nami and Sona are mostly picked when these three are down. We often see it in Korea. A lot of people have been saying, why don't you think Nami is good? Blah, blah, blah. We see her picked in Korea all the time. Pumandu picks Nami and destroys with her. Yeah, he picks Nami because these three are almost always banned every single game in Korea because they're just that good. So that's why we see Nami. If these three weren't banned, then they wouldn't pick Nami, aside from that like one stray game that Pumandu picked her and had that infamous save on Bengi, I believe. You can go look up highlight reel or whatever. So yeah, Sona's also just good because they're because of her initiate. Kind of the same thing with Nami. They're just two initiating champions, which initiations are very strong right now. So yeah, there you go. Malphite was played by, I want to say, Samsung Ozone. Oh no, it was played by Mafa and KT Bullets, I think. They played Malphite Sivir. I don't think Malphite has been played outside of that game, but I personally think that Malphite is really good right now. He has one of the best initiates in the game, and he also doesn't really care about physical damage, and the meta right now is primarily physical damage, I would say. Outside of, like, unless you have like a leash jungle, but other than that, it's primarily physical damage. So yeah, that helps. But really, it's just about his initiate, and he also has pretty good pushing with his E. He can kind of just walk up, ground slam, take no damage with his passive shield, and that will push out the lane, and he can just keep crashing with Qs after that. And his initiate is godlike at all points in the game. So that's A tier. Now moving on to B tier, I have Kennen, Alistar, Amumu, Taric, Galio, and Zillion. So this is where the kind of unconventional supports start popping in. So we'll start off with Kennen, which I think he's getting a lot of hype from Gambit, but I don't think he's better than B tier, obviously, because I put him in B tier. I think he has a lot of weaknesses, which we saw in the game Rocat versus Gambit, where Kennen is just not very good pre-6. For some reason, people think he's strong because he has poke, but honestly, he's so squishy that you can just go on him and kill him, and he doesn't have an on-demand stun. So, and a lot of these supports, like Leona and Thresh, are like, who cares if you're gonna throw a Kennen Q at me or a Malphite? It's like, okay, you go for that, bro. It doesn't really hurt me. And he doesn't have on-demand stun, and also his engage is good, obviously, but it's not as good as like a Malphite, for example, which is why I rate Malphite and Morgana as the two highest unconventional quote-unquote supports, because they have two of the best engages while not sacrificing too much of a laning phase. Anyway, enough of Kennen. Let's move on to Alistar. Alistar is someone who I thought was actually top 5 at one point at the beginning of the season. We've seen a lot of play from him in OGN, and he's good, but he mainly just goes even. He doesn't really make too many plays. He's good against hard engage because he can just ult and then counter engage on the enemy team, but I think he's just too much about reacting he's too reactionary instead of proactive, basically, and I think that's a weakness of his, which is why I put him only in B tier. But his roaming and stuff is really good. He's definitely good in solo queue. He's okay in solo queue. I don't know. He's just okay is how I consider him, which is why he's in B tier. I may even consider him being C tier, honestly, but oh well. Amumu is another unconventional support, which I think is pretty strong. His laning phase is weaker than, say, Malphite, but his engage is like ridiculous. Amumu ult is just devastating against a lot of teams, and having that kind of power on support is really good. I was really tempted to put him in A tier, but I think Malphite is better, so I didn't want to put them both in the same group. But if I had to, I would put like Amumu above Kennen, but below Malphite is how I would put it. And then we'll just transition this into Galio, who I think is the worst out of the four, Malphite, Kennen, Amumu, and Galio. I would say Galio is the worst, but Galio can still work. I think the biggest thing that I overlooked when I was initially talking about him with friends and whatnot is that his shield is actually ridiculous. It gives 90 armor and magic resist for 4 seconds. That's 180 stats. That's crazy. That's a lot. And then, yeah, it's a 13-second cooldown, but holy shit, that's a lot of stats. So yeah, and plus obviously the engage from Galio is pretty good as well. Taric is just meh. I don't even know how to describe him really. He's just okay. I honestly don't know what else to say about him. He's just okay. He doesn't have as much threat as these champions or any other champion in this entire. He's kind of like Alistar sort of, except he has. Yeah, Taric, Alistar are kind of similar. They're just meh. They just do okay, but they do a really good job of surviving, which is a good thing. Zilean can be really good in certain team comps. He was banned a lot versus TPS or TPA. I forget who played it, but he was banned in every single game of that best of 5. And I don't think the Southeast Asian scene is really that great right now, but it just goes to show that someone is playing him and someone is playing him right. I do think he can do really well though. Obviously he doesn't do well against like these champions, the S tier champions, because he'll just die. But if they aren't open, then he can be pretty good. He can do like okay against Thresh, but not. I wouldn't want to be in that situation as a Zilean. Okay, moving on to C tier. Fiddle has fallen out of favor because of his fear reduced, obviously, but he is still good. I think he's kind of slept on right now. I wouldn't really say slept on because he's not that great. Just because, oh, well, yeah, you see I put him in C tier. They did finally fix his fear to where it would always fear away, which was a huge nerf. But they finally fixed that, so he is a bit better now, but overall he's just too squishy and his fear doesn't last long enough anymore. Like, Fiddle support was already falling out of favor before the fear nerf. Like, no one was playing Fiddle, and then they just nerfed him anyway because of people playing jungle Fiddle. So that kind of sucks. But he can still work. Janna and Karma, I'll just talk about them both at the same time because I feel like I have to put them in here, but honestly I think they're both terrible. And anyone I ever talk to would know that I don't like Janna or Karma right now. I've never liked Karma, even when people are singing her praises in Korea, saying that she was the new Annie, quote unquote. I still didn't like her the entire time. And after she flopped like 8 games in a row and did terrible in all of them, they're finally like, maybe Karma does suck. Maybe we shouldn't play her. But yeah, the thing with Karma is that she just doesn't offer enough. Like, her CC is god awful, and the speed boost is nice, obviously, but it's not enough. And she falls off so hard in the late game. It's ridiculous. Like, her CC ends up being nothing pretty much because you have to be so close that you're just gonna die, and you have to stay in range for longer than LeBlanc's. I'm pretty sure the delay on it is like half a second longer than LeBlanc's for some reason, which is really confusing because I think the snare even lasts less than LeBlanc's does. So it's just overall a really terrible ability. Don't quote me on any of those numbers, but I'm just not a fan of Karma. Janna, kind of the same thing. Janna offers absolutely nothing in laning phase. She can't push, she can't do damage, she can't sustain, she can't make picks, she can't CC well, she can't do anything, basically. I used to play a lot of Janna. I checked my stats in Season 3. She's like my 4th most played champion. But, so it's not like I hate Janna or something, because a lot of people get that feeling from me. It's just that I don't think that she's good, and I don't know, it kind of makes me sad, but at the same time, I don't know, she's just not very good right now. I think Nidalee is pretty underrated. Everyone always talks about her being like the typical unconventional support that sucks and does nothing in terms of supporting, which used to be true, but now that supports can actually build AP, I think she can do work in some AoE team and some push comp and some push comps. For example, we see Dignitas doing these strategies in LCS where they just push 2 towers down while the other team takes Dragon. Imagine if you had a Nidalee support in that situation that gives you a speed buff or an attack speed buff, and then on top of that you have the sieging potential of her spears. Because in that situation you don't really need like an Annie or something to dive, and having the poke potential from a Nidalee would be quite strong. The reason why I put Nidalee so low is because she's only good in that kind of team comp, which, like I was saying before, even though Nidalee is really fucking good in that one team comp, that's the only thing she's good at, so that's why she's so low. Soraka can be good situationally versus like Leona. It's really hard for Leona to burst down a Soraka, especially if you have like a heavy physical damage partner like Graves or who else? Lucian? I think Lucian is all physical except his W. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, Soraka can just kind of burst heal through everything, but she doesn't really offer that much outside of it. Soraka used to be, and still is, a really big counter to Fiddle, which not a lot of people know, but Fiddle's fear range is so small that Soraka can always silence when he walks up to fear, and then just trade with him for free, which is... I've played the matchup before as Fiddle against a good Soraka player, and it's really bad. Like, really, really bad. But no one plays Fiddle anymore, so it's kind of irrelevant. Okay, next up is Wukong. Wukong is really annoying to play against. He pretty much gets free harass in lane with his E and his W. He can just E in, hit you with his leap strike or whatever, and then use his clone to get out, and you can't really do anything about it because his mana costs are so low for some reason. So he can just keep spamming over and over, and there's not much that a lot of supports can do about it. Like, Thresh can... Okay, well, Leona can just straight up kill him. Thresh can knock him back during his E, or just kill him afterwards with a backwards flay into a Descendants. And Annie has kind of troubles against him because his all-in at 6 is so strong too. And Annie will just kind of die, similar to how Annie will just die to Leona all-in at level 6. So that can be rough for Annie to deal with. Zyra is just falling out of favor because Yeah, there's no real need for counter engage right now, and she's the queen of counter engage or counter initiation, however you want to say it. But after her nerfs especially, and the meta shift of counter engage not really being relevant, because there's just too much hard engage now through champions like Annie, Leona, Malphite, Morgana, stuff like that. It's just not really relevant to play as Zyra anymore, and she'll just die in lane like a million times over to these champions because she has no way to survive. Yeah, that covers it up for for S through C tier. But I want to give honorable mentions to these champions. Probably won't talk that much about them, but Lee Sin was played by Mata on Samsung, and also who's the support for Blue? I think Acorn is the AD carry, and the support is... I forget his name. Either way, both the Samsung teams played Lee Sin. Blue didn't have success with it. Ozone had success with it. I think it can work. I haven't played enough myself. I've only played it a few times, and it's kind of hard to tell from solo queue. You know, like anything can work in solo queue, right? So who knows? But I think it definitely has potential. Just honorable mentions means I don't know where to place these champions, basically. Ashe, kind of the same thing. She has a pretty good laning phase. Obviously gets crushed by champions like Leona and Annie, but because she has no escape and she's too squishy. But she can actually push a lane really fast, has good harass, and then her initiate at level 6 is one of the best in the game. I'm not really sure where to put her either. Mundo is just Mundo. He's just ridiculous anywhere. Kind of the same with Gragas. Gragas should probably, put where would it go alphabetically? Well, I have Lee Sin first in here, so I guess it doesn't matter. I'll put Gragas in here too. Why not? Because that's kind of the same thing. They're just both so broken that it doesn't really matter where you put them. They're both going to do extremely well. Mundo has really good poke, and he can actually push out the lane pretty well. And his trading is like ridiculous, and he also has a lot of sustain to keep sustaining the lane. You can just run health regen Quince on him, and you'll just take no damage pretty much. At least that's what it'll feel like because you have so much regeneration. Nunu is, I'm not really sure about him. I think like if you run Nunu Caitlyn or something like that, or Nunu Jinx, it can do well. Nunu has the potential to just never die because he's so tanky, especially for blue side. I think purple side Nunu is pretty shitty, but blue side Nunu is really strong. The reason being is because you can constantly eat the golems on blue side, which means you get the extra health percent from his consume. So that's really good. Because on purple side you have the white, which doesn't even give a buff, if I remember correctly. Like, it doesn't even count as a wraith buff. And then don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And then the wolf, which is useless also. So purple side Nunu is pretty bad, but blue side Nunu is actually potential to be good, I think, with Caitlyn or Jinx, just because they're long range. Maybe even like Nunu Kog'Maw, but Kog'Maw is so far out of favor right now that it's not really that relevant. But I actually think that Kog'Maw could work in some team comps right now, but and I think Nunu would actually be a pretty good pairing with him. Now I think about it, because his zone control from his ultimate allows Kog'Maw to kite better in combination with Blood Boil. That's something to think about. Anyway, moving on to Rumble. It's just his ultimate. His ultimate is so good that whenever you have a champion who has a single ability that is just amazing, they're usually viable for support. When you think about it, like Thresh's Hook or Thresh's Lantern, Annie's Tibbers, Leona's Solar Flare, Blitzcrank's Grab, Malphite's Unstoppable Force. All these champions have, like, Sona's Crescendo. They all have these like this one ability that is just so good, and Rumble's ultimate is one of those abilities. It's just so good. But his laning phase is kind of meh. He can push, sort of, but he ends up taking a lot of damage from it. Haven't played it myself, but I think it could actually work. Vigor is another one of those champions that has an ability that is just amazing, and it's his cage. His cage lasts for 2.5 seconds, I think it is, which is like absurd. I think it might actually be 3. I think it's 2.5 though. Let's see. Yeah, it's 2.5. But I mean, still, that's ridiculous. It's one of the best stuns in the game, if not. I actually think it is the best stun in the game. So yeah, if you just get CDR and Vigor, then he can do work. Kind of gets crushed in lane though by a lot of champions. And the last one. Oh yeah, I kind of already talked about Gragas. He's just overpowered in general. So yeah, Gragas has potential to do well just because he's way too strong right now. But yeah, hopefully, well, not hopefully, just let me know if you guys like this video in the comment section. I'll do more tier lists if you guys want me to. And also, if you want them to be shorter, if you want me to talk less, it's kind of hard for me to talk less, but I'll try. And then tell me if you want to see for the other roles or every patch when you want to see them. Just, let me know what you guys think, and I will be sure to yeah, do whatever you guys want. And again, disclaimer, I'm not gonna say it, just, you know what I'm gonna say. Disclaimer: a tier list, blah blah blah, is, not saying one champion is better than the other. It's just or better than the other in a certain situation. It's just they're better overall. And again, this is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree with me or add other champions or whatever. Anyways, video is long enough already. I'll just cut off here, and thank you all for watching. Make sure you let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you all for the next video.